the Director of Marketing for Elder Scrolls Online. And this is going to be, I think, the most fun panel of the day. You can ask almost anything you want. If they're gonna force them to spoil, I might kibosh you a little bit, but we'll spoil what we can. So who has questions for our team?
That was very exciting that the PTS, that it will be released on the PTS, but what about the console players? We don't have a PTS.
We don't. And part of that is our console partners don't support that. And so it's really hard to go through that approval process. It takes a while, and so we need to iterate as quickly as possible, so we do that on PC.
If we could, we would.
Absolutely.
That's
It's
honestly, yeah.
Yep.
I have a question.
Gina has a question.
Here's a question.
This question actually came from the ESO forums. It's from Native Joe asking, with the removal of veteran ranks, which is something that's happening in this update, what will happen to my currently owned VR level gear?
So the current gear that you have is going to be converted over to basically champion points. And so if you have VR14 gear, it'll basically be champion point, 140. And if you're, a player that, stopped playing before champion points was kind of implemented in your VR14 and you don't have enough champion points when you log in, we're going to give you those champion points. So you'll always be able to wear the gear that you have currently, which I think is a really important thing.
Who's next? Go back here. How can I get to her?
With the veteran rank removal, are you going to make older sets such as the Aetherian Archive and Hilra trial sets? Are you going to scale those up to what would have been VR16 now, or are they still going to be not the best?
So we want to keep the. I'm going to spin on this thing forever. I'm just saying that this panel and the next panel, I'm going to be spinning on this. Anyways.
It's kind of an awkward way to phrase
Yeah, it's
it.
really hard not to spin. Anyways, so we want to keep the loot drops that happen in those in that content to be the same for the level. So if it dropped at VR12 because it was set to VR12, then it'll be around champion rank 120 or so, or champion 120. That being said, because Sanctum of Phidia is upgraded, or we are now scaling it up to the max level, that gear will drop at maximum the maximum champion rank that we have.
So what you're saying is I will be able to scare
Yes.
my friends with the Celestial Mage hat
Yes.
and dance weirdly in front of them. Nice.
You sure can.
Yeah, you should have just said yeah.
Mike Finnegan, the dungeon lead, so he knows what he's talking about in that regard.
Kinda. Yeah,
There you go.
Can you give us an example of the size of the zone that's coming in terms of how many delves and world bosses there will be?
For Dark Brotherhood? Yes. The overall landmass is bigger than Thieves Guild. We wanted to really stretch things out and make it feel like you're exploring the space. I think the number of delves and world bosses is the same as Thieves Guild.
It is.
Is it going to be like as large as Hrothgar was, where I could kind of just explore, or is it more of the sneaking and like vertical exploration of?
It is not as big as the Orsinium zone, but it's bigger than Abaz Landing.
Cool.
Part of the reason for that is that, like in Thieves Guild, there will be missions associated with the Dark Brotherhood that take you out of the area of the Gold Coast. So it's not just Gold Coast missions. You'll be going all over Tamriel, solving problems. Yeah.
A lot of missions.
Yeah.
There's questions up there. So it does have its own skill line, and a big part of that skill line is the Blade of Woe. A lot of the executions that you saw were using the Blade of Woe.
So I should start saving up my skill points now.
Maybe. Or you can run around and find a bunch more. Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's say my characters are all goody-goodies, because I'm in the minority. Is there going to be a lot of stuff for me to do in Dark Brotherhood without playing a different role?
Without playing a different role.
And by that,
you mean you don't want to kill
becoming a
people?
bad guy.
Stab people?
All the people you kill are bad people.
Oh, okay. Then it's okay, right?
They need killing.
It's just like that wolf I killed. That was also very, very bad.
I just
You'll be
wanted to
next.
know what you could share on the Blade of Woe.
The Blade of Woe?
Is it something we assemble?
It is a tool that gets given to you by the speaker, right? When you first join the guild. And mechanically, the way it works is it's a synergy.
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 That's what he said.
It's very, very synergistic of you to say synergy.
Synergies of synergies of synergies. Right, Gina?
It's like our April Fool's patches.
The synergy is what we're saying.
Stop.
Okay, so since you just said that there'll be missions going outside the Gold Coast, and I'm a big Argonian fan, will be some more lore towards Shadowscales?
There is a bit more lore towards Shadowscales revealed in this upcoming content. I'm not going to go into spoilers on it. But it is not, this is about the sort of, I wouldn't say vanilla Dark Brotherhood, that doesn't work, the licorice Dark Brotherhood. This is about the licorice Dark Brotherhood, the basic Dark Brotherhood. Shadowscales are a thing unto themselves that we will explore in greater detail another time. So we haven't done all the Dark Brotherhood stuff yet, but we're doing the basics.
I'll ask another question from the forums while I get up. Shadow Roshan was asking, well, one of the things that's going into this update is poison making, and he was asking what the mechanics are going to be for poisons, if you could give some examples.
Yeah, so poison making is an extension of alchemy. So the way mechanically it's going to work is if you want to make a potion, you're going to use waters. If you want to make a poison, you're going to use oils. And so all of the mixing and matching and coming up with the various combinations are built into that system and are part of the poison making. And one of the things that I'm really excited about with poison making is there are definite ways, to start to drain resources from other players in PvP, and so it kind of changes the gameplay up in there. So yeah, it's a really complex system and it's a ton of fun to play with.
So one of the things that I really that I was looking forward to ever since I heard about ESO was the PvP justice system. And I was wondering if there was anything specific that you discovered during your balancing that makes it entirely impossible for ever doing this, or is it maybe there might be some way to figure out how to do it at some point?
Right. So nothing's impossible, right? It's with the justice system and the PvP portion of it specifically. There's a lot of edge cases. We have a lot of really creative players. When you run around in Cyrodiil and you see what they're doing and how they're doing it, and we have to be very careful that we don't break what we've got. The PvE portion of justice system is really popular and everybody loves it. And changing that, and I've heard a lot of suggestions of, well, just let players opt in. Well, as soon as you do that, then the less scrupulous players start to play with that and find different loopholes in different ways. And so we decided, rather than go down that rabbit hole and chase all that stuff, was to focus our efforts elsewhere. But nothing's impossible.
Thank you.
So the mechanics of poison, if you're playing...
Right there, okay, sorry.
If you're playing a race with an innate resistance to poison, is the player-owned poison going to be treated the same way as poison from a monster? Or will there be a reduction in the resistance as far as PvP?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. I know that the snake blood passive in the alchemy line actually has an effect on poisons as well. So my assumption is, and I haven't tested this personally, but that it does take into effect. But that's definitely a question I can go back and ask Robo.
It's so that on the video they can
Oh,
hear you.
on the video. Craft bags. How much stuff can I stuff in it?
A shit ton.
So like,
Using a technical term.
That's a
Because my
Canadian
in-
ship, by
I'm
the
a
way.
prisoner, so my entire bank is food, and I would love to clear it up because I have one character that I purposely made to hold the maps that you get at the beginning of the game. So
Yep.
I have to log onto her, put it in the bank, take it out of the bank, put it back in the bank. So I would love to be able to just use my bank for other things. So is there a limit?
There is a limit. It's a really, 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 really big number. I think it's something like 42 billion or something crazy.
Okay.
It's massive. It's insane. So
You
yeah.
can try and stuff it.
I'm sure somebody will somewhere figure out a way to get to that point, but it's unrealistic that somebody will hit the cap.
And just so you know, if you see when you ask good questions, we're randomly picking people to give some swag to. So, who was up here? Here. We'll go grab the other.
And here we go.
I thought you were going to have. Just ignore it.
This is more in the future. Will there ever be a like smaller scale PvP, like either arena or something set up where you can actually train? You know, if you suck like I do, you can train with one of your guild mates or something.
Yeah.
Right now, if we want to train, we can't do that.
Yep. It's something that we've talked about and publicly that we will be doing. Unfortunately, I can't tell everybody when, but we're working on it right now.
Actually working on it, not working on it.
In regards to housing, is there anything you can share about either guild or personal housing? Any direction you might be planning to go with that in the future?
So right now, the engineering team is actually building the editor for how it's going to work, and we're establishing the permission systems and things like that. So we're a ways off from nailing all of those things down. And so I don't want to commit to it's going to be this or this right now because we got to iterate on it.
With the removal of veteran ranks, can you tell us how Veteran Zones and Craglorn will be handled?
How Veteran Zones and Craglorn, that's a very leading question. Open-ended question. I would like to do something with Craglorn. It's not going to be there for Dark Brotherhood. But we are converting the gold and silver zones over to champion points as well, and we're changing the balance in there. Because you go through, the first few levels of champion points, you earn them really quickly, and you earn them at a different pace than kind of the silver progression was and the gold progression. So those are getting rebalanced.
I have a bunch of questions. Should I just ask one and
sure.
Not including this one? Okay. Stamina balance changes was mentioned. Ooh. What are the plans for that? Because I've always played a stamina Nightblade, even when they did it from launch.
So there are a bunch being made. Roble is not here, and so he's the one that knows the most about it. But an example that I can give for some of the stamina changes are with the Fighters Guild. We're focusing the Fighters Guild more on stamina, because the Mages Guild is more focused on Magicka.
Okay.
So we're doing things like that.
Can I ask another question? Should I hand it off?
Sure.
Is poison making, so can I use poisons and potions at the same time? Or if I use a potion, will I have to wait until my timer runs out before I can slot a poison?
Poisons are equipped, in a different slot than in your quick slot, and so you can use them both.
Thanks. I'll let someone else have that. No.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
You look like a high elf.
So I had two questions. So first one is, for players that are of the supernatural persuasion, will there be any unique execution options as members of the Dark Brotherhood for them? Say if you're a vampire sneaking up behind somebody.
You guys were talking about... Well, sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Sure. So for players that play as a vampire or werewolf, and that could kill other NPCs by other means, is there a way for them to do that that's maybe unique if they're a member of the Dark Brotherhood, rather than having to use a dagger?
The assassination stuff?
Yeah.
It's exclusive to the Blade of Woe, right? So it's, and it's, Yeah.
Okay. And
Sorry about
that. And if I can ask a second question, are there any new player and player interactions that are coming with this DLC?
No, I don't believe so.
Define player interactions.
As opposed to player versus NPC, player versus player. Any?
PvP assassins.
So the assassinations are purely Dark Brotherhood. You won't get to kill other players outside of PvP. But we are making some changes to Imperial City. We're putting District Capture in. So that's going to offer a big change there and incentivize people to go back there and added some new things to the Telvar Stones vendor.
I got two questions.
Back there, got it.
Gotcha.
First one is, for stuff like costumes, will we eventually be able to dye them?
Dyeing costumes.
Or like maybe just get like an armor.
Heather, are you going to kill me?
In a second slot that's just what's on us instead of actually our armor value.
Maybe. He's not allowed to neither confirm nor deny that we'll be allowing you to do that.
Okay, and my second one's more of a technical question.
Lurk, how about that?
Account,
/lurk.
I have ESO Plus, and I've had it since it came out on the consoles. But for some odd reason, to get the crown points, I have to contact the support group and show them that I paid for it.
On Xbox?
Xbox, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely an issue that we're working on, and we're working with Microsoft on that. Yep.
It's an Xbox known issue that we are working very hard and very closely with them to take care of, and as soon as we can, we will do whatever we can to make your life less crazy and hellish.
So from the Road Ahead article, we had a pretty good idea of what's happening Q1 and Q2. Is there anything you guys can say about quarter 3 and 4 that wouldn't give away too much, or maybe just give away everything?
I'm looking at Heather, because every time I say something, she shoots daggers at me.
What did he say? I didn't hear. I was
Talking about
trying to fit
Q3
between
and
the chairs.
Q4.
What?
Q3 and Q4.
We can't say anything just yet, but there will be a lot of cool stuff coming, and I'm really looking forward to engaging the community more than we have in the past and building new programs so that if you're a super fan and you're coming to things like this, you will know things early and be able to work with us on them.
Thank you.
Hey, so how's crafting gonna work with the removal of veteran ranks? I guess how is like stats gonna scale on armor? If I could go craft like CP 500 gear, I could imagine that could be game breaking in some senses.
So you won't be able to craft, 500 CP gear right off the bat. We're gonna cap it right now at I think it's 160.
So it's gonna stay at like
right
current
now.
16 gear for a while.
We wanted to get through this conversion process, make sure it all worked, and then go crazy and start adding new things.
Okay, I guess I had a couple of poisoning related questions. The first, you had mentioned that they're based on oils now rather than waters. Are the existing reagents still going to be used for that? Or
Yep.
Will there be any additional passives that make them more effective?
I'm pretty sure there's additions to the alchemy passives.
Okay. And is it going to be kind of based on the old Skyrim where you kind of poison a weapon?
So you equip the poison.
Okay.
There's actually a new slot.
It looks like a little slot next to your weapon, and you kind of equip it into that slot, and then as it processes the poison, it takes the stacks of that poison away.
Okay, and then I guess the last question, is as long as that poison is equipped, does it affect every use of that weapon? Or is it kind of, you apply it once and then it's used and then you have to...
So the way the system is set up is there's an equipped slot for bar 1 and an equipped slot for bar 2, so you can have different types of poisons and toggle between them. But it's there and it's equipped, and we treat it like equipment, so you can't swap it out in combat. You have to be out of combat to swap it out.
And you think of it similar to the way that weapon enchantments work now, where if it has a fire enchantment or something like that, this poison is kind of would work that way, where it's not hitting every single time, but it is. There's a proc. It procs.
Okay. And can they eventually be exhausted when they're equipped, kind of like enchantments?
There's charges that go through it.
Any additional reagents that might make poisons more effective? Okay. Thank you.
Hi. When we have to kill somebody for the Dark Brotherhood, will we have to use the Blade of Woe, or can we kind of design how we're going to go about killing them?
It depends on the quest. In general, you do not have to use the Blade of Woe. It's an optional. It is an awesome option, just for the record. But yes, in a number of quests, it is a bonus rather than a requirement.
Have you figured out how to make them say "whoa" every time they kill someone?
Everybody already does.
I know. It's like it's going to be automatic. It's going to be the thing. Your turn. No? All right, I'll go.
Oh, no, I'll ask one.
Sorry, guys.
Gotcha. This one is also from the forums from Thalon. What factors do you consider when deciding to scale down difficulty of dungeons like Vet City of Ash?
Yeah, Mike.
Or E, or like the tower.
So we actually think of a lot of these decisions are data-driven as well as feedback-driven. So we will get feedback from people that'll say, this is too hard or this is not too hard. And then we usually go to the data to decide, oh, well, let's take a look. Let's see if how many players are accepting the quest, how many players are abandoning quests, how many players are able to start the dungeon and not able to complete the dungeon. So we go through this entire process, and we have target numbers that we really, really want to hit. So, you know, if 0.1% of the population is able to complete a dungeon that took us quite a long time to do, that's not the target number that we would want to hit. We want to get more players involved in that and more players engaged. So those are some of the factors that we look at when we reduce difficulty.
Hi.
Hi.
It's you again.
So I have a two-part question. Crafting bags, is that just for ESO Plus members?
Yes.
Okay, here's the second part question. If you're like me and don't change your credit card when it expires and you miss the date, because that just happened to me, what happens if you're an ESO Plus member and you have all your stuff in a crafting bag and you lose ESO Plus?
You can't put anything into it, and you can still take stuff out.
Oh, smart. Oh, you.
Smart. Good job.
I have my
Rich.
moments.
Put one in the smart column, Rich.
All right. My question is PvP related. I would like to know, what is your opinion on the outcome of the Vicious Death set?
What is my opinion?
Yes.
I think it's effective.
I think it's really effective. I think that what we intended it to be, you know, kind of hit the mark. It might be a little strong, but I think overall it's pretty cool. I do think that we need to look at proxy debt and kind of how that works and how it scales. You know, it's really strong on that initial burst, even on one player, and so we're going to look at that. But I think overall the set's pretty cool.
Okay. And do you guys have anything planned in that same field for the stam builds?
We have a lot of stam changes coming up, including stamina-based sets.
That's very good to hear.
So I have a problem where we want to do all of the unbelievably effing amazing content that you do. The problem.
That's a good problem to have.
Right? Yeah. So the problem we have is that we are now over-leveled for almost all of the content that we play. And with the new DLC coming out where you essentially get battle leveled up, so it doesn't matter what level you were, it's challenging.
Yep.
Have there been any discussions about letting you sort of scale down to the content so that you could still gain XP in a way?
I don't love scaling down, but you have a really good idea.
Okay.
Scaling the existing content, that's a good idea.
That's a fantastic idea.
How far off do you think we are to seeing zone text chat in consoles?
What did we announce? I mean, we're working on it right now. I've seen actually the design, and I know the UI team has a first cut of it, so we're close.
Yep.
It's not for Dark Brotherhood, though, but I know we're close.
But it's definitely something we're actively working on.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the district capture system, Imperial City?
It's awesome.
It's awesome. I really wish Wheeler was here. You can capture each district individually, very similar to the way you capture a resource in Cyrodiil, and then they provide buffs to you while you're in there.
And respawn points. And
respawn points.
Stuff, and then it's all 6.
Yes.
All 6, individually. So you could have different factions owning different parts of the city.
Hi. So I have 2 questions. One is really quick. It's an in-game question. The second one is maybe a little more elaborate. It's a creative development question. The first one is there any plans currently to introduce more playable races than what is currently available?
Playable races, no.
No. Okay. So the second question is, when you guys as a creative team are going about developing the new DLCs and everything, how much do you pay attention to what other MMORPG games are doing in terms of what you guys want to add? Like, hey, they're doing something, it could work, or they're doing something that won't work. Do you guys pay attention to that, or do you stay, screw it, we're not going to listen to anything anybody else is doing, we're just going to come up with everything off the top of our heads, and that's it?
I mean, I think you take inspiration from everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I play MMOs like crazy. I play other types of games too. I love going to, flash game sites, Congregate, things like that, seeing what the indie scene is doing. And I think you have to do that in order to be, a good developer.
I think specifically when we do stuff for trials and group content, like we don't just pull from, a lot of people think we just pull from specifically group-related stuff, but we don't. We take a look at single-player games, sports games, a lot of the reward mechanics that those will have in them and stuff like that, so that we can pull and say, how can we use this to reward you guys that are playing our content? And yeah, we grab inspiration from everywhere. It's not just MMOs.
But we also listen particularly hard to our own community.
Yep.
Because they are the ones who are the closest to our ear. So yeah, we take from everywhere, but you guys come first.
Do some of the Dark Brotherhood quests challenge players to come up with creative ways to complete the quests and take out enemies?
There are
Less than your
multiple
way.
methods for completing goals in a number of the quests.
Cool.
Especially when it comes to the repeatables, it is much more up to you how you complete the goal.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool element that, you're set with a task, but how you do that is up to you, and then you're rewarded based on how you do that. So it's pretty cool stuff.
For the Dark Brotherhood, if you get all your gear and then you go into PvP, can you assassinate an actual player?
No.
So there's no assassination kills?
Well, it depends on how good you are.
I've seen some streams and some videos where they get blown up almost instantly, right? But the Blade of Woe is purely a PvE thing.
Okay.
Oh, and I was just wondering if you guys are planning any particular Daedric Lords themed crafting styles, such as Malakath and Trinamag, like maybe Hermaeus Mora or a particular Moloch Ball set coming up.
I'm looking at Lawrence.
Yeah, no, and Jared particularly too.
Sure.
But we work with Concept very closely. In fact, of all the art groups, that's probably what I work with close. I'm sorry, I'm Lawrence Schick. I'm the lore master, and we work way out in advance on new crafting styles and new armors. Daedric, weird ass Daedric stuff is very popular. So you can at some point you're going to see more weird ass Daedric stuff. Absolutely.
Nailed it. More weird ass Daedric stuff.
Mm-hmm. Once again, technical in-game terminology.
I believe the design doc said weird ass Daedric stuff.
All right, 2 questions. First one's quick. Can you confirm or deny whether or not I'll be seeing my friends in the Morag Tong?
Seeing your friends in the Morag Tong?
Yeah.
A particular
friend by the name of Naryu Varian.
That would be a spoiler.
It's more, will you be killed by Heather if you say yes or no?
We can neither confirm nor deny.
I see.
Spoilers.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Second question. So there are a couple of map inconsistencies, such as the fact that Imperial City has somehow turned 30 degrees, and that Skyrim kind of cuts into, Eastmarch specifically, cuts into the portion of Morrowind that contains blacklight. Do you plan on addressing that in the future? I mean, I know that it has to be a nightmare to fix it, but it really bothers me that Imperial City has turned 30 degrees.
I think they addressed that 1,000 years in the future, didn't they?
It is 1,000 years.
You're such a smart ass.
I'm going to punt on the Imperial City, but as far as borders and things on maps, I'm going to point out that maps are lore, just like everything else in the Elder Scrolls, and maps are to a certain extent, represented by how the people in the game see their areas. And so borders are a thing of question, and not everybody has the same answers on them. So borders shift, and over time there may be some changes to the displayed maps that you see for gameplay purposes. But there are lots of different maps of Tamriel, and they don't all lay over each other perfectly. And this the same way our world is.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Imperial City, though, that's all Jared's fault.
Maybe there was a magical anomaly that shifted magnetic north on Nirn.
Maybe there was.
So,
or not.
Weird-ass Daedric shit to wear is fairly far out. What about some weird-ass Daedric quests, like Daedric Shrine quests? Is that anywhere in the future?
Not in the short term.
Not Dark Brotherhood.
Being considered?
We hear you. We've definitely talked about it.
The Daedric princes and their cults are central to these stories of the Elder Scrolls, and they're going to be taking central stories, having central places in the stories in the future as we go forward.
Yeah, we're not abandoning the Daedric princes.
No,
They'll be there.
They're dear to our hearts.
Yeah.
Now, while they're not going to be playable, are we going to see stuff like the Snow Elves or maybe a dwarf here or there?
You should come back at 5 o'clock.
I'll be back for 5 o'clock then.
Hi, I'm a musician, and I got to tell you, one of the things that I'm impressed about is just how awesome your music is. So,
I agree.
Kudos. How are you going to go about in the new release here, coordinating because that's what you guys do so awesome, coordinating the action and the music together? Can you let us know a little bit more about what's the same, what's different?
I think we were going to go with soft jazz, right?
Yeah.
So that sells Dark Brotherhood, I think, is what I'm saying.
So our audio director, Brad Derrick, is working on some new stuff. His goal is to add a little bit of something new every DLC, and so you'll get some new music.
Not just new tunes. He is very, very dedicated to making the music reflect what's happening in the game.
Right.
That's key to his purpose.
He actually did an ESO Live where he talked about some of the elements musically that he added to Thieves Guild, which it was fascinating because sometimes we take it for granted because we hear the music all the time, but to see some of the stuff that he's added is great. So.
I think it's great, so thank you.
Are there any plans to do anything with Whiterun, or the Whiterun area?
It's not Whiterun. You asked if there was any plans to do the Whiterun area in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not in our short-term plans. Eventually we would like to return to Skyrim because there's lots of fun stuff there we haven't done yet. Absolutely, but it's not in our short-term plans.
Okay, I'm going to ask one from the forums because I can.
You go, Gina.
This one is from Kaz. Any chance we might see a no IC access campaign with a lower maximum number of players per faction?
And the idea there being it would
potentially to escape some
the
of
performance
the performance
issues?
issues, yeah.
So I would rather fix the performance issues than lower the cap on the number of players in there. And we're addressing those issues right now. We're kind of attacking it from two angles. We're attacking it from the latency or the server performance side, We've got a pretty big fix or optimization going in for how we manage giant lists of data and target sets to make that a lot more efficient. And then, Jared, I don't know if you want to talk about the client side or the frame rate issues.
Yeah, so when we talk about performance, there is a clear distinction between latency and frame rate. And frame rate is on the client side. And the first change that we've made to address issues is moving strictly to DX11. So we've had support for both DX9 and DX11, but neither were optimal because we were supporting both. So that's why we shifted to exclusively supporting DX11, optimizing that code. We do have another bug fix that's going in the next live push, which is, I think, May 2nd, that
2 weeks, I think, around there. Week or two, something
first
like
week of May. And that is going to address some people who've been having the frame rate issue where you get low frame rate and you just stay there. So going to DX, so there's that fix, but we're going to get just some better performance on the GPU with the DX11 change. And now that we're on DX11, the client graphics engineers feel like they can now take advantage of that and do some additional optimization in the future. So, and then further.
Oh yeah, Alex is here. Hey, Alex. Well, he's one of our client engineers.
There you go. So further, we think we can also move some processes off the CPU onto the GPU because of that. So.
Yeah, we're working on it. That's all of our effort right now for changing stuff from CPU load to GPU load because we're kind of having a hard time right now.
Yep.
Over here, again. So I know you said something before about we'll see a little bit of the Shadowscales. Will we see anything from the Nightingale?
The Nightingales are strictly 4th era. They do not occur in the 2nd era.
Okay, I just like the armor from that, so.
They're awesome, but you got to wait 1,000 years for them.
Will Craglorn dungeons ever be added to the group finder?
Will they ever be added to the group finder? We actually have plans for Craglorn as a whole, and it's a ways off. So I don't want to go into too much detail on that, but we have plans for it.
Hi, me again. And I know that in Elder Scrolls it was shortly after a battle with the Akavir. I was just wondering if any other inhabitants of Akavir might make a cameo or two.
That would be a spoiler. I don't think we can go there. But Akavir, it's out there, out in the ocean to the east. It's totally out there. There's guys there. They may show up.
Even if we can't tell you if something's coming or not, knowing what you like and what's really important to you does help us a lot in deciding what we're going to do. So you're totally okay with asking questions we can't answer.
Speaking of which, I know you said it's completely out of your hands, but do you have any time frame for the consoles at all?
What do you mean?
Meaning the DLC release for consoles at all, like any kind of window. Like you said, you're kind
launch date. Have we talked about launch dates for? Not yet, but it will be. Just PTS on Monday for PC. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it'll be shortly after. When we announce the launch date for PC, we'll also announce the launch for console.
Thank you so much.
With the removal of veteran ranks, how will that affect the different campaigns in Cyrodiil? Will there be different champion point caps or something like that?
So last time Wheeler and I talked about this, there was going to be a no champion point campaign and then a champion point campaign. And I think we decided on like a 1 to 49 campaign, but I have to double check. I know for sure there's going to be 2 rule sets, and there might be a 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, do I go? So I like being an individual, if you can't tell. Shocked. So I have a bear mount right now. Have you guys thought of doing any other animals, like maybe a llama, panda bear? I can give you my list. An elephant, I'd like to see eventually.
Yeah.
A flying, maybe something flying would be cool.
No flying mounts. But otherwise, players love exotic mounts, and we love giving players what they like.
There will be a new mount type coming with Dark Brotherhood.
Oh, I've seen that, so.
Yeah.
And there'll be other things coming.
He's like, I know. I just want something really, really cool.
I know you guys are probably getting tired of me at this point, but
Nope. You're good.
With the Blade of Woe and stuff, are we going to see more of the weapons come out? Maybe run into more of the gods and do their quests to get their weapons?
Ooh, the legendary.
Maybe.
Now I've just come up with the next 3 DLCs for him.
Furiously writing. No? Yes? Maybe?
We need to see how it goes over and what the players like and don't like about it. And then we will figure out if we can give them more.
Okay, you keep making mounts, I'll keep buying them though.
Deal.
Go for it.
Go for it.
The short form of my question is Vedark's Crinium when, and the long form of my question is, do you have a plan for adding more veteran dungeons beyond, yes, we want to add more veteran dungeons? Like a
we want
quarterly
to add
release or something?
Well, yes, we have a plan.
No, you can't talk or mention anything.
But I can't say, there's no veteran dungeons coming with Dark Brotherhood.
Right.
And that's about up to where we can say. But yes, we are going to add more dungeons in the future.
Cool.
If you're saying taking the existing dungeons and making veteran versions, we have plans.
Right. It's just that
Yes.
AD and DC have their third zone veteran dungeon, and then I'm EP, and I'm sad because I want to go in Shadowfront.
I understand. I feel your pain.
Thank you.
This one is also from the forums, from On the Loose. Any plans to adjust the Maelstrom drop rates?
Yes.
Yes.
There's some changes with Dark Brotherhood.
Yep.
Thank
Well, we definitely made changes in there.
Thank you, Mike.
Read the patch notes on Monday.
Natch boats?
Natch boats.
Okay, so I'm clearly the noob in the room. I just hit my first level cap, but I've played.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the noob advice. But so I've played console and computer. I play console because I like the voice chat. I play computer because I like the add-on and the enhanced graphics. But I was wondering, why is there no in-game voice chat for the computer?
For PC, partly because we made it specifically for the consoles on our initial implementation, and part of the reason because there's really good options out there for PC already. And
Yeah, but they're not universal options. So
They're not,
if we
you're
do
right.
A dungeon,
Yep.
like we never talk, and I like that on the.
I don't like that.
Wish we could. You don't like
You do
talking
dungeons, you should talk to people.
Agree, totally agree.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're not universal.
Okay. So there's no plans for that.
Not right now.
So I've thought of 4 questions. You can stop me whenever you want.
Jess Daniels. Sorry, it's one of our designers. She likes to ask a lot of questions.
First one is, what is this about hats I saw?
Hats?
Hats?
They go on your head?
Oh, God.
That's the extent of my knowledge. Jared, that might be on you. Right? Jared might know about hats.
We've added hats.
Talking about the level caps that players
Level caps. Perfect.
We're being really sarcastic, but it's another way to customize your character.
All right. Character customization, I know, is coming sometime this year, it sounded like. Is that going to be kind of just, it's the same interface as the original character creation where, I don't know if you
have increments of crowns for each change you make?
There will be a system by which you can customize your character. No, I'm sorry. That's another one of those Heather will beat me, but
It's, but the system's not done.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's
We're still
being
working on it.
implemented right now.
Yeah, we're still
But
working
you will be able to do things like wear a hat with a costume, with a skin, that kind of stuff. And you will be able to re-customize what you look like as well.
Thanks. This is a question for Mike. I heard balance changes for Vet ICP and Vet White Gold Tower. I really like the difficulty they're at right now. Is this going to be easier? Are they getting harder? How is that?
We are reducing the power a little bit in not only Veteran, White Gold Tower and ICP, but also normal version of White Gold Tower and ICP, as well as Veteran City of Ash. And this goes along earlier what Gina asked a question about what goes into these decisions to do this. And it just really, when we took a look at the data and what people were doing there, it just wasn't hitting where we wanted. We just didn't get as much player engagement out of that as we really wanted. So we made the decision to reduce the power. Now, that being said, you guys should definitely play it. It's not, it's not like I'm taking a hatchet and 25% off everything. It's totally not what it is.
You can't do naked runs through here. Like, it's still hard.
Yes.
It's just, we took off some of the really rough bursty edges.
Yep, and it's small incremental changes will go better than trying to, sweeping 15% changes or something like that. So
It was so satisfying staying up to like 4 in the morning to defeat Lord Warden.
that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
Last question is something about there's changes to traits. How can you shed any light on that?
So we have done a pass on the traits in the game that aren't used very often by players. A really good example of this would be the exploration trait, right?
It was epic.
Well, it was good while you were leveling, but when you finished leveling, it was useless, and so we changed that. So now I think it also boosts your champion point XP as well. So it's a useful set forever, and not just during the leveling process. And so we've done that with all of the traits that you've told us suck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, me again. I actually have 2 questions. One.
Over there.
Oh.
Gotcha.
I'm one of those people that love everything to match on my character. So I was wondering if there's at any point going to be some new armor options for your mount.
Horse armor.
Horse armor.
We have no plans for a bard for horses at this time.
Okay, and my second question is, I also was a big fan of actual melee, physical melee attacks, like punching, both in
Unarmed
Oblivion.
kind of thing?
Yeah, Oblivion and Skyrim.
It doesn't
We
mean
do
we're
that a
doing
lot
it.
in the office.
So I was wondering if there's going to be a skill line for that, or maybe a bring back to Spear from Morrowind.
The spheres. We're not adding a new skill line for Dark Brotherhood. We have some ideas for other skill lines later on, but we'll see where it goes. But you aren't the first person to ask for unarmed combat.
Right.
We see it all the time.
Or for horse armor.
Or for horse.
We talk about it every day. Every day.
I believe I just brought it up yesterday.
I saw a microphone go over there somewhere.
Hello again.
Hey.
Why, hello.
So I hear some games are going to be cross consoles where you can play on PlayStation and Xbox together. Are you thinking about doing that?
I think literally everybody in the studio asked me that question when Microsoft made their announcement. And the answer that I gave them, and actually I answered this on ESO Live as well, was that it actually asks more questions than it answers. And so we need to do our due diligence on there and figure out what it exactly means. And we also have to have both of our console partners agree to support and embrace that before we can start entertaining that. But we're excited about it too. It's really cool.
And one more quick one. For stuff like pets, eventually for someone that's not a summoner, can you get something that we can attack with that will give us a little bit of a buff so we're not getting attacked by 5 enemies we're solo questing? Because I'm a solo guy.
So a real pet system.
Yes.
It's a good idea.
Hey, I wanted to ask about the animations that you had in the Thieves Guild PTS that you pulled.
The animation canceling stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that coming with Dark Brotherhood? Are you canning that for now, or?
Do you want to touch on that, or you want me to?
Well, I'll make a comment and then you can add to it. We've got to make sure that it's right before we get it out, and there are a lot of edge cases with it, and it's just required a lot of testing. So most of the improvement, like we've made some really good improvements, and a lot of it is done, but there are still a few things like the blocking thing.
The block one. So we have, for Dark Brotherhood, we've got that PTS build. There's some changes to how animation canceling works that we want to get feedback from you guys on. And what we did for the block stuff is basically kept it under the old system, so the block still takes priority, but all of the other animation canceling things are in there. And then in addition, we also made it so that whenever you block, you also see the effect. Before you only ever saw the effect on other players. And so now when you do it, and it actually feels pretty good. So, let us know what you guys think when you get on there.
Yeah, cool.
We don't want to make gameplay feel less responsive. And that's why we kind of took it out.
And we don't want to break anything.
Yeah.
So.
I have one more. About battle leveling, I guess, in Cyrodiil, because if you can only go up to 50 now, and there was battle leveling all the way through veteran ranks. Have you adjusted that?
Yep.
So,
it'll take into account champion points.
So will being at level 50 with your champion points pretty much be the same as it is right now at V16?
That is the intent.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Guess it's my turn. Okay. So, first question, while I try to remember my second question. Why doesn't my Imperial steed blink? It's
Your
very
Imperial
unsettling.
steed blink?
Yeah, the Imperial horse. It doesn't blink. I've watched it.
Are you sure you weren't blinking?
That may tell us more about you than the horse.
And Ray, I remembered my second question. So, first, does the term blood spawn test mean anything to you? I assume not. Okay, so
Is the term what?
Blood spawn test.
Blood spawn.
I can explain. It's okay. So basically, right now, the quote-unquote best way to test your DPS is going into Vet Spindle Clutch and fighting blood spawn, and then
the gargoyle.
hacking away at it. Do you have plans to maybe add a combat dummy?
Oh God, I would love to.
Because it would be really nice to not have to go into a veteran dungeon and run past the first 2-3 waves of mobs in order to test my DPS.
Yep, I agree.
I'll say that you're not the first person that's brought up that feedback, and it's not the first time we've heard it.
I sure hope I'm not the first person who suggested that.
It's definitely something that we're looking at. We really, really want to do. It's just we don't have anything to announce with it right now. But it's definitely something that's something that we look at and we go, yeah, we definitely want.
As long as you're
Actually,
on board.
I'll get in trouble for this, but I want to put it in for housing.
There you go.
I just got daggered right now.
I was trying not to say that, bitch.
I don't know anything about housing. Just saying. So we have time for 2 more questions, but we might be putting some question answers online. So if you tweet or Facebook to ESO HQ, we might be able to answer more later. But after these 2, then we're going to have to move on to the next thing. But you're also welcome during the break to ask people questions. So
where's that Steve?
you got someone, and then
fancy notes over
she
here.
can be
Up front.
the last.
They're both pretty quick. Jewelry and spell crafting. Are there any plans to reapproach those in the future?
That I can talk about. I can't talk about it. I love the idea of spellcrafting, and jewel crafting. We just have to do it when it makes sense.
Oh, he had 2 questions, he said.
I think you forgot the other one.
Jewelry and spellcraft.
Oh, 2.
Yeah, they were 2
clever,
topics.
clever. Blew that one by.
We're efficient.
So as much as I love you guys, I did not like it when you took all of my skill points away and I had to redistribute them. Are you planning on doing that again?
No.
And if so, can we opt in for it or opt out of it so that way we keep our skill lines?
So we don't plan on, mass wiping players again.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, that's all we have time
It wasn't
for.
as popular as we'd hoped.
Yeah.
Starting over? I'm shocked. Is there anyone who asked a question and didn't get something? All right, we'll find something for you too. So thank you guys so much for coming to this panel, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one in a half hour.